You've built your career in film, television, and advertising. You speak the language of professional production. And over the years, you've broadened your knowledge of new equipment, new techniques, and new workflows. And now, AI is here. And the best people to help you adapt are the professionals who are already doing the work. Introducing Secret Level Academy, the first AI filmmaking masterclass built for professionals like you. Designed by the team at Secret Level, an AI native entertainment studio delivering award-winning work for global brands and Hollywood studios. This isn't theory. This isn't tips and tricks. This is a deep dive into the techniques and workflow of a new era of AI-driven production. You'll learn how to bring still images to life with motion, performance, and direction. How to work in different styles from realism to animation. How scenes are designed, animated, refined, and delivered. How to create any characters, style them, and place them in cinematic worlds. How to incorporate new techniques to enable hybrid workflows with live action. How to deliver complex visual effects in a fraction of the time. And how real AI native productions actually get made, from ideating in LLMs to outputting with upscalers. This is a course built from Secret Level's experience on years of professional projects, using a studio-proven workflow shaped by real-world experience. So come learn from the best in the business.
People who speak your language.
And take your career to the next level. Secret Level Academy, a professional masterclass for the next era of production.
Yo, we are live. Hey, Trace.
Live. Hello, Jason.
How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm gonna walk through some projects. Thank you for everybody for showing up today and watching. We have a lot to go through. This is something that normally would be reserved just for Secret Level Academy members. But this is we're going live for everyone, just so you can see what we do. But we're gonna break down two projects that I did over the past couple weeks. Trace, do you want to say anything before we get started?
Yeah, well, let me just tell everybody a quick little info about the Secret Level Academy. The Academy is our goal with the Academy is not just to teach you the tools, the specific tools. We're trying to teach you a mindset. So in the Secret Level Academy, we go through every step of production, from ideating to finishing and everything in between. We show you how to create images, how to come up with your outline and your script and your ideas, and how to use AI in every single aspect of production. Every milestone that you would hit throughout the creation of a project, we talk about when to use AI and when not to use AI, and we teach you how to think in that manner, where AI will help your project and where AI might not be the best use of those techniques. So what we're really hoping to teach is a new mindset. It's not just, here's how you use this tool, have at it. It's a mindset of, how do I use AI to make a better project? When is the best time to use it? And if I'm using it, how do I make something as cinematic as possible? Our goal is to we're training filmmakers. We're really geared towards people that already have a background in filmmaking and advertising and television and art. And
basically storytellers.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
like
storytelling.
People
Exactly.
are into storytelling.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's really why, for us, just these live classes are going to be really important as we break down projects. So without further ado, I'm gonna start with what remains. This was done right when Kling 3.0 was about to come out. And what I do every single time with any of these sort of, new model, when every single time a new model comes out, my goal is to break it in some way, shape, or form. And this was just, just trying to play around with Kling. 15-second takes were just incredible. Like just the ability to write in prompts that for, just different cuts that you could do within that 15 seconds. But then, my main objective with this film was all about just letting shots breathe, which we kind of haven't been able to do. So for a 15-minute long take, or 15-second long take, I think it's really interesting. So let's watch it. We'll talk about it, and then I'll dive into it.
Please. It was an accident. It's not good enough. It's not good enough! I think back on that day, my wife, my daughter. All I can say is that I am sorry.
So that is what remains, and I'm going to talk through the process of it. I really debated that shot of blowing up the the mother and the daughter. That was like a hard one. The fact that it was able to even be done, but it for me it was like a very emotional, powerful beat that really does show the the something. And then there was a debate of like whether or not a car would explode and all that kind of stuff. I saw people do. Let's jump into this. So one of the things that I really got into and loved throughout the process was just developing your lead character. So spend a bunch of time just trying to find just this who could my protagonist be, who can my antagonist be. So worked on this character for a bit, and really got to the point where I was really happy with his look. You kind of don't know if he's a hitman, in the beginning of this, like he could be, somebody doing something very nefarious. On the other hand, when it went to the other character, the old man that accidentally killed his wife and his daughter, I just wanted somebody that feels very kind of intimidating, but also at the same time could be this warm and nice man. And with these two elements, most of the project was done with that, and then looking into just start to explore that character, using, Nano Banana was able to take this character, start putting him in environments, and I really just was trying to capture this mood of this very dark, very rainy, dark sort of Irish town. The truth be told, this was going to be a project where we were going to use an actual actor to act this whole performance out, and then use Kling, basically video to video transfer to do it. But I was blown away by the performances I was able to get out of Kling. So, but just starting to build, what I think is a really exciting thing to do with any project is you start to world build. And once you get, your characters and you start to decide on your location, I really like the way that this was all starting to sort of play out. So this is always, stuff that once you have your characters, once you have your locations, once you have your look, you could really start to build out this world from the cinematic side as well. And that's what I started to do. But the main thing that I was focused on is could I get great performances out of synthetic characters? That is one of the most interesting things. So I'll play a bunch of this is like a string out of this clip, and I did this very, very early on. So this is what convinced me that, hey, let's probably not use actors for this. I just want to test how far I could push performance. So let's just look at this. Is like the same a very, very long-winded prompt, by the way, that was just all trying to get all the nuances of a human performance. So I'll just show you a couple of the performances. Some of them are bad, some of them are okay, but just gives you a range. Too many tears. I did not tell him to do that. But as you can see, I mean, what I was fascinated with was just, just the different reads that you can get. Hey, I want you to basically, sorry about the audio being distorted. We don't actually know why that was happening. I'll remove and add again. But one of the interesting things about, I liked was just trying to prompt in all of the different types of nuances in a human performance. And that for me was the most interesting thing. We'll try this again. Hopefully it's not distorted audio. But just the idea that we were able to, or I was able to just sort of get a pause, a breath, and all those different things. Let's see if this is better audio. So you could see all the different little pieces of that performance were all very much prompted.
I think back on that day,
And one of the interesting things I think is just like, just all these sort of, tears and the little moments and the breath and the swallowing before he said his next thing. That was all prompted. So everything there was scripted. And did everybody hear audio on that last one? Did that work better? Yes, no? Any feedback on that? I'm just trying to make sure. I mean, what I love is just like the fact that there's like, the model just did so well with like, there is a tear, in his eye. And I really love that. I think that's one of the things that for me, it's those nuances of all of the different types of performance that you could add into something like that. Gonna try it again. Sorry about the distorted audio. I don't know why. It was working earlier. And then looking at different types of performances, the camera movement is something I always love to do. And it's something that really is just I love moving in camera in AI. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And the more detailed prompt you could do for that. So this is just like, just different types of zooms and move. He's talking in some sort of dialect. I don't know. But that's from that original still, from this still, able to get something that sort of extreme of a close-up. It's pretty amazing, in my opinion. I was very, very impressed with how it really does retain the exactly what you had in your original image. So I moved with this short and the next one we're going to talk about. It's all about elements. I really felt like the elements performed better than just stills. And just looking at this, like there's so much work that went into, for me, just like I really love this pub. So I was like trying to, make sure that all the different, like all the details here could work. And something, you could use Nano Banana for is to, look at the reverse shot of this, like what does the other side of the bar look like? So I spent a bunch of time going through that. Something I thought was kind of interesting is just to show you progress. This was the very, 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 very first thing I did. And I wanted to see if we can get performance, and I was going to have that final scene just be kind of in the countryside, in some sort of forest. And I moved it to the cliffside at the end. And I think that one of the things that I really liked the new location was just, how basically, to me, a very big visual change. No, reading some of the comments, not going to show prompts. It's all about technique, not just the actual thing. Academy members, we will share prompts about all this sort of stuff. And yeah, Omni with elements is to me, it's the way to go. I've just been having really great success with like defining locations, all that kind of stuff. So this is the first clip I generated, and just wanted to see if I could get, and I didn't really have their faces fine-tuned yet, and I wasn't using elements. This was from a still, and it didn't know what his face looks like. So, it kind of didn't know what he looked like. So it guessed. So with elements, I was actually able to just say, here's my main character, here's him. And, if I wanted to, I could describe the location, or I could upload yet another still for that. And this is like one of those interesting ones. I always love the weird flukes that come out of AI. So originally he was going to pull him out of the trunk, had a lot of issues with trying to get him out of the trunk, and the physics of that weren't working really well. So this is kind of funny, but I'll play it. Love the camera work though. then all of a sudden the tail lights become headlights, and that didn't work. So, but use this for a very short portion of in the short, just to get this nice little camera move. Traditionally these would be extremely expensive to do. And in terms of prompting, I think one of the interesting things about this is once I have my characters, once I have my location, then it just becomes very detailed prompting about how I want the camera to move. I want to start on this wide shot, on the cliffside. It kind of knew the location of my cliff. I had uploaded a still of that, and then just sort of described how the camera moves. Basically, if you look at all this, just like I wanted it to kind of come in closer at the end. And it's really sort of, at this point I was like, wanted it to kind of almost come into a close-up of our lead character, and it didn't really work out that well, but I really did love just this first part, just to open up the scene. And then one thing I want to talk about real quick is did all the music in Suno. And one of the things I thought was interesting is just trying to find the right tonality for that. I think it was like one of those things. I'll try to bring up some of the music choices I had, which I thought, just trying to find something that felt a little bit Irish, but also, kind of cinematic. And music does play for me a massive, massive role. But if audio is not working, I don't know if this will work, but can we hear that? So it's still not working. I hate you, live stream. Hold on. Let me try something else. I don't know why it is not working. Apologies. Share system audio. This should be. Let's see if this works. If not, we'll have to figure out another solution for the next time. No. Okay. Darn it. All right. So we'll fix that. And then in the near term, I think one of the things that I want to do is go over basically our next short, Something in the Soil. This was I got access to basically Seedance 2.0 on last Saturday morning. And it was Valentine's Day, and I decided to spend the entire Valentine's Day making it short, and had to get on a plane in the morning. So I just had one day to do it. And I really thought that, the model itself just blew me away. I just cannot explain how different it felt than other models. So let's watch it real quick, and then I'll talk about it afterwards. There we go. Let's rewind. Here we go.
We got a great show for you today.
Good boy.
Let's go get some dinner.
So I love a good creature feature. I grew up on a bunch of those, so it was a lot of fun. Like kind of going. There was actually somebody was asking me, about some of the inspiration for it, and there is a movie called Them from the 1950s. It's about giant ants, military, desert. And then there was a video game in the 80s that I remember playing called It Came from the Desert on a Amiga. That's how old I am. So that I just love giant ants, desert felt like fun. And one of the things that just to talk through some of the process of how we did this, I want to bring up. Here we go. Just this, starting with once again with an element, and in terms of the workflow, it's fairly simple. I mean, we talk a lot about this in the academy, but it's just like once we've developed our elements, it really becomes world building after that via prompting. So for me, here's my main guy. This is actually the first still that I had started with. And what I really liked about this was I felt like there, to me, let me see if this helps at all, because I think it was trying to actually play back. Hold on one second. So many. It definitely is a Premiere issue. So let me see. Let's see if this pauses it. Hold on one second. I have to quit out of this. All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to try something new. Maybe that'll help with this. But one of the things, even all the elements that I started with, which were like, okay, here's his house. Here's the exterior of his house. I really like, with a lot of these things, start with all the major elements that I need. And for me, let me see if this is going to work. Hold on 1 second. Okay, here we go. It's coming up. So let's see. Does this play any audio now? No? I give up. I don't know what to do there. So just talking about this, this is the still that everything started with. And for me, the thing was, what is the cinematic look of this? What is the what are the like what's the time of day? What all those different things. And then basically what's the size of the ant? So I kept getting a lot of things that with some of the elements would come back, it would know. So once I had the exterior shot of the house, I created this interior one and then use this just as another element as a guiding force. Same thing with the car. Once I had that, I actually just kind of cropped this and used this as an element, so I had the same car consistently. But I did this in Nano just to show the size. So I wanted, like, let's picture him like a 6'4" man. Maybe this ant is 18 feet tall, maybe it's 20 feet tall when it's fully standing. And I use this as a guide to also in the description I would constantly describe it as, you know, a 20-foot ant is you know, following him. And one of the things, like once I had my character, then it was really easy. You know, then I think, you know, before you'd have to do it frame by frame by frame. So the elements thing, loved it. There's this house, there's that. Do we want to keep trying the, okay, you're streaming at a higher bit rate than the upload stream speed for stream. I don't know. 44.1 versus 40. Sorry to do let's see, this is don't see a bit rate. Oh, sample rate, yeah.
Hey, good boy, Baxter. Let's go get some dinner.
Okay. Sorry, somebody muted. Okay. Good God. So that's working. So we got it working. So big shout out to Jeffrey. Jeffrey is the winner of fixing the audio. It was the bit rate. So you were right. Nice. Thank you. So here's just some clips that one of the hardest things for me was trying to do two things. Have the ant crash into, so I'll jump to that real quick. Having the ant crash into the into the car and having it realistically stop. So I'll play some of these. Are pretty funny. Some of them are great. Some of them are like, okay, I just killed him, and other ones I was just very surprised by the physics. I mean, my favorite part about that one is when he's like not actually in the driver's seat driving. So that's, that's one of the things that is one of the downfalls, just in terms of like how, like when you are just prompting, you have to be so specific in your prompts. And all of this is, I've told, and I did use, I had some GPT help with this in terms of trying to say, okay, I did all these in 15-second clips. So all these are 15 seconds, and then prompt in all the cuts. But I think for me, the most important thing about this is that, you could do so much within this 15 seconds. And I don't use the whole 15 seconds in the final piece. I'll just use a frame or two here. And that was another fun one. That ant is, not a 20-foot ant. It's like a 50-foot ant. So I know I keep seeing, workflow. I would love when we go into comments, we could open up and talk about the workflow. Is this, you're coming up with your image, your location, all that sort of stuff. And you're 95% of it is prompting, So that is what it's all about. Every single thing here is a description. That is the workflow. Once you have all your elements, it's very detailed descriptions of every single shot that you want and all the different cuts that you want. And for me, working on an action sequence like this is it. I had an element of the truck. I had the element of the man. I had the element of the ant, and everything else was prompted. So all of this is prompting, and this is all the weird flukes that you get. All of a sudden there's two ants, and there's one in front of him and one behind him. loved this one a lot, but I also probably, you know, I would say probably murdered him. I love that he sits upright. Let's see here. And you kind of see, like, at first I wanted the car to go upside down, and that was almost impossible to yeah, like you see. So it was inside the truck, and then you know, he's upside down and he gets out and it's right side up. So that was really tough. I think with all these, like, just looking at different collisions, definitely murdered him during that. But I love how it retains, like, it really does retain with the elements, with the you know, starting with your images all and having that all locked down. Like, this car stayed the same. My main character mostly stayed the same, which I thought was just a lot of fun. And then when it comes to, you know, there's something I did when Google VO, you know, that is the whole thing about this, is that when VO 2 came out, I loved doing titles. So I'll play a couple titles. I mean, historically, that would be a very expensive title sequence. And this was like starting with the title, but then going through different elements. And I originally was going to start it at this sort of dusk hour, or dawn hour. And then in terms of, you know, just some fun story beats, I originally wanted to start in, you know, it's early morning, and all of a sudden we go into this old cave and we see, you know, the age old, you know, like, here's that dripping green liquid that goes into the soil. So that's why it was actually originally titled that. So this is all a 15-second generation, heavily prompted into all of the different, you know, all the different sort of shots that I needed for this. And I ultimately didn't love, you know, kind of starting this way. I really wanted to start with character. And I think that that's one of the things that, for me, you know, just being character driven, it was really important. So I'm going to wrap up in just about a minute, and then we could talk, bring Trace on, bring Isadora on, and we'll sort of talk through process and answer some questions. Because I know there's a bunch of people asking, what's the prompt? What's the prompt? That's not the point of this. A prompt doesn't make a short. It's you that does it. And through all these techniques, you will create this. So let's bring on Trace and Isadora, and let's talk through some of the questions.
Can I ask the first question? I actually want to know what in the fight with the ant, you have that camera where it spins around. Yeah. What was the how did you was that a happy accident? Was that something you specifically went for?
No, that was very heavily prompted, but I thought that part of the thing is, that's where I really rely upon a GPT. It's like, you know, here's a bunch of in this fight sequence, I want a very dynamic camera. That's a word I use a lot. Dynamic camera. It's you know, how that camera moves, the camera rolls when our character rolls, like all those little things. Those are the things that I think were, you know, like, that made the big difference in terms of that. And like, does the camera, is it handheld? Does it fly at this? All that kind of stuff. So and
then I think the other thing, just really quickly, that we should just touch upon is that, you know, we break down prompting very specifically in the course. I think we should just let everybody know that in the course, like, you know, we've all taken other courses where it's like, here's a prompt and you kind of use it. Okay, I see this prompt. Now I know how to do this specific thing, but how do I go and do this thing? So in the course, we really break down, here's the elements of a prompt that we think works best. Time of day goes here, this goes here, this goes here. And we show you how to create these really cinematic prompts from the building blocks up so that you can generate those things based on your filmic knowledge.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you have found the chapter PDFs helpful, because that's something we worked really hard on, was trying to you know, really find some sort of, you know, way of taking everything that you've just heard and went through and use it in a practical sense. So let's take some questions from the audience.
Well, while people write their questions, we've already collected some questions in the form, and there are questions much like the prompt about how is your workflow and how big are the prompts, how detailed they are, and that's something else that we go in depth to the Academy. Academy is your secret levels workflow, so that's kind of how we broke the Academy into modules that go through each step of the workflow. It's all there. As well as the prompts. We have prompts for each stage of production. We have prompts for ideation, for pre-production, production, and then we also go over post-production, and there's some prompts for that too. The course companions have prompts that you can copy and paste and then tweak yourself to experiment. And for the level up members, we also have the secret level GPT, which is a great resource. It can help you build a more detailed prompt.
I think that distortion was once again from Premiere, so we got rid of it. Sorry. There was a question that just came in. Let me find it. Let's see. How much of a vision exists in your head? So that's an interesting one. For me personally, it started with a still image on something in the soil. I was looking for a creature feature thing, and I was just playing around and wanted to you know, sort of find something, and found that still, and then sort of built the story around that. And then with What Remains, it really did start with a character, and I had the basic story in my head, and it started really from character development. Who is this guy? What had happened to him? So a lot of things I do usually start with story, but I just with one image, just playing around with it in Seedance, I was blown away. So I just kind of just dove in and did all of that. Let's see, another
Jason,
question.
maybe tell everybody just a little bit about, you know, Seedance and 2.0 and Kling 3.0 were just new tools that have come out in the past 2 weeks. I see, like, just give us a little detail on those, because I think some people are asking, you know, how did you get the consistency and stuff? And just explain, like, that's what's great about these tools, is that they kind of keep everything consistent.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about all the modern, you know, whether it's VO, whether it's Kling, whether it's Seedance, is that the elements mode is really where, you know, you prior to that, you either had to do everything in text, you know, like I'm going for punishment, so that was my fun in VO2, was always doing everything via text. And then the other thing was, you know, image based. So every single shot had to go to a still, and that still then you animated that still, and we go over all this in the Academy too. Is the idea of doing it with elements becomes such a more interesting way of working, because you really are defining all the pieces of your world, and then using a prompt and motion, you know, your motion prompt to bring it all together.
Jason, we got a question at the Level Up community that I really liked. It's asking, as a director that started in live action and now you're directing in AI, which phase did you feel directing changed the most? Is it writing, world building, creative decisions?
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing, is that, you know, when on set, you know, we talk about this a lot, on set, you know, you're prompting your crew, You're telling everybody exactly what you want as a director. Here, the main difference is that you really are just sort of, you're the costume designer, you're the editor. If you're doing this all by yourself, you're the editor, you're the stunt supervisor, and I think that to me is where it gets really exciting. So you could be, I think what I normally see is like the less detailed a prompt, the just, you're not going to get anything great from that. So I would take the time to really go into great detail in the prompts, and using a GPT is really helpful for that too, if you have your general idea. What are some other questions?
We got a good question on character consistency, but before, when somebody signed up, they were asking about product. Can you also get that kind of consistency when you work with product in AI?
Yeah, I mean, it's 100%. It's the same, the fact that I could recreate that car, this old pickup truck, and recreate it from different angles, was all just from one image, from that one element, which is great. I saw, let's see, I saw a question.
We had a question about, the cost of some of these things, which,
yeah.
I mean, do you want me to answer that one? Do you want to answer that one?
Well, I know we've had a lot of discussions just about, kind of how much things cost. I've always hated, I've always hated that, like how much that costs, how, what's the prompt? Those are all the things of like, you got to get in there and do the job. But yeah, we could talk about Seedance. I don't know what the price is going to be. It's just in beta right now. I believe it comes out next week or by the end of the month for everyone. Kling is available everywhere. Direct to Kling, I mean, I don't know the cost of tokens, but direct to Kling is one cost. Higgsfield, you could use, you could use Kling on that as well. I personally use Higgsfield a bunch, just on the image side of things. I love the image model, Cinema Studio right now. But a lot of the image work happens in Nano. And I'm glad someone asked about JSON prompts. Okay, so I'm like one of these people. I'm very against it, only because the idea of a JSON prompt, it works in theory. You're just specifying every single thing in the scene. Here's my character. Here's this. Here's that. The problem is that normally, if you do it in a full JSON format, basically the problem is that it puts in a bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be there, because all of these use natural language. You use natural language to describe what you want, and JSON puts in a lot of stuff that isn't natural language. It was like somebody once said, it was like trying to propose to somebody using an Excel spreadsheet. It's just not, it's not the way that we normally talk. So, and the models are very, personally, my workflow is, when I work in a GPT, I talk to it, I tell it what I want. I work on the prompts that way. I refine the prompt via talking to my GPT. So that's just how I work. And something that we do give you with the Academy too is a prompt builder that will help as well.
And I think really quickly, just touching upon, like Jason said, we kind of recommend this in the course, that aggregators like FreePick and Higgsfield are good because they allow you to try different modules and models and tools. So we generally recommend those just so you can kind of get a taste of everything. With, these newer models are a little bit more expensive. You can find some things out there to try Seedance now.
Yeah.
And I think, the thing that we always tell people, it's just the better your prompts are, the less you'll have to prompt. It'll save you money. But, when I got started in this, I looked at it as an investment in my career. And this was kind of part of the cost of doing it, the same way you would train for anything. You would sign up for a gym, or you would do this or that. Like it's part of the cost in learning these tools. So, it's part of it. We have a question also I saw of how long are your prompts in terms of words or characters, and do you find that models struggle with long prompts?
It really depends on the model, but yeah, mine are usually pretty long, especially when you're dealing with 15 seconds. And what I liked about the 15 seconds approach and having multiple cuts within it is it kind of, something that, when you shoot live action, you need coverage, right? I need a close up, I need this, I need that. So you could prompt all that coverage instead of, traditionally, like I said, you'd have to go in and do an image for every single angle, but now you could get that via prompting, which I think is really kind of the next level way of doing it. I'm just going through some of the, I know we're going to run out of time, so I'm going through some of the comments real quick. I prefer working on Kling's platform personally. I know you could use it on free pick, you use it on other ones. And if you're just starting out, I'd recommend that, but you mostly can, I think Omni, and I just think the experience overall works better personally on the platform.
Jason, I have a question for you. Can you talk a little bit about one decision that you made for one of the shorts that was based on technical problem solving rather than just a creative decision?
I mean, I feel like for me, I always try to do one of these shorts around some sort of technical challenge, like long shots, consistency with character, all of those different types of things are for me a way of just testing the system. What works, what doesn't work, where does it break? Actually, I switched over to the elements end on both those shorts because it was just very time consuming to get all the different angles in an image, and it really, with a 15-second generation, and I can get multiple angles in there as long as I've defined all my elements in that, it just worked so well. And I prefer to work in video. That's why I always would go to text to video, because I didn't like the step of like going to image, then going, it was just, I never had enough time. So that's one of the things I thought went pretty great.
And then just there was a question, I don't know if we answered this, but just to kind of really hit the nail on the head about character consistency from scene to scene in multiple programs. Like these new programs, you're just dropping in the elements that you're creating. So Jason's creating these images in Nano Banana, which you can access in free pick and different, other different things. You're creating your image. You can create a character sheet where you see the character from different angles, and then you're just dropping that in. And then you're prompting like a director. So it's doing it all for you. You don't have to worry about the consistency because the AI does it all for you. The other quick thing that I think we should touch on that you said about, you were showing us your shots and how, a little piece would be good. And sometimes it would do this and that. And I think that's the fun of, and why we really geared this towards people that already sort of have a production background, is that it's almost like being back in film school using these tools. It's like when I can't afford to get this shot. How am I going to shoot this? How am I going to do this? Using these tools, it's a little bit like that. It's like you have to find workarounds. Just take a bit from here. Yeah. And someone asked about some restrictions and getting, do you ever get pushback from the models? Yes. And it's also finding out ways to word things to get those. So it's another workaround. How do I get the model to give me this? Because it won't do an explosion because it thinks I'm killing this old man. So what can I prompt to kind of work around that?
Yeah, I agree. There was a question that somebody had asked that I thought was really interesting in terms of, IP. And I think that, when Sora 2 first launched, when Seedance first launched, there was no guardrails. And people were doing, the Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt fight scene was a thing that really pissed off Hollywood. I personally, and Secret Level has been very adamant about not using copyrighted IP. And that's what I really don't. I've been extremely vocal. Just you have the ability to do everything and anything. Don't use copyrighted IP. I think it's a cheap way to get a lot of views for something, but to me, I think it is poking the bear at this point. Hollywood is very on edge about AI. So using copyrighted IP, in my just my personal advice, I wouldn't do it. This is not pre-recorded, by the way, for anybody asking. We are real people too. We are not.
And there's another great question here that I'd love to hear your answer to, Jason. Someone asked, when do you know, after how many generations do you decide to bail on getting a specific shot?
That is a great question, because
right? That's a good one.
Bang my head up against the wall just trying to get, well, the best one ever was when we were working on the Wu-Tang Clan music video. We tried to freeze the Manhattan River. And I was using things like, frozen Manhattan River and this and that. And because it's a river, I guess it wasn't freezing. It was never like hard enough to walk on. There was like some ice chunks or this or that. And then I must have tried it 1,000 times, just like kept changing up different things, different ways of doing it. And then one of the things that I found in it that I really liked was I just changed one word and I put tundra, frozen tundra. And all of a sudden, it was like completely frozen with the boat in there and everything. So it's sometimes it's just changing one word or adding in a word that you wouldn't think. So for me, if you really need that shot, keep trying, but try different ways of explaining it, like Trey said. Any other questions? I know I'm just scanning through. There's a bunch. Let's see.
We got some questions from the forums around what do you think the latest releases represent in AI?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you that, I've seen a couple things come out of Seedance that I really, everybody loves to say that Hollywood is cooked, and I would never say that, because Hollywood's always going to be Hollywood. It just might adapt or change. But there's some stuff I've seen, coming out of Seedance that it's on another level. I feel like we're finally, between Kling really being able to listen to, like, directing when I'm directing a character and it actually listens to it. So the prompt coherence is incredible. And I just love that we're at that level now where we could prompt these longer things, that it is listening to us. So I think we're getting closer and closer to this being a very serious, piece of technology that will start to compete with traditional film and TV. All the music I put into my productions are come from AI generation. So either I used to use Udio, that was like my favorite, or Udio, or however it's said, but they changed it. And Suno used that a lot, almost for everything, and do a lot of deep dives. On the next one of these that we'll do, which will be sort of, unfortunately, not open to the public, only for Academy members, we will get into deep dive on music and all that kind of stuff and how to prompt for it. So we are at time. I'm sorry we didn't get to everybody's questions. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully you could join up the Academy. We hopefully see you in that, and we'll do so many more of these over the next year, and with different types of content, from animation to live action. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you later.
This is Secret Level Academy, an AI filmmaking masterclass designed for creatives working in film, television, advertising, and content production. Built by the professional team at Secret Level to teach cutting-edge techniques and production workflows. From ideation to production to post, learn how generative AI fits into real-world filmmaking pipelines. Dozens of classes, assets, and course companion documents. And the Level Up community, live classes, guest artists, and social networking exclusively for Academy members. Secret Level Academy, a professional masterclass for the next era of production. Enroll now.